So I don't get this asked often anymore, but my friend last week asked me about some high protein grains that I might recommend to her. And it made me wonder why she would ask that. But I said, I don't tend to focus on any high protein grains, so I just eat whatever grains I want, which then led her to ask, well, then where do you get your protein? Because she knows that I don't eat meat. So it led to the obvious answer most of us know, which is all plants have protein. And then we went on to talk about why she was asking, because she was thinking about going on a ketogenic cleanse, which is its own different video topic, but I thought I might talk about the protein thing. I know it's a common topic among vegans because we're asked it all the time. So I think it's interesting that we have a society worried about our protein intake when most Americans are ill, largely due to their diet and high stress lifestyles. Most people don't give me any flack about my lack of protein or my protein-free diet because, generally speaking, I tend to be healthier, more fit, leaner than people our age. And it's a little more noticeable as you get older. As somebody who's nearing 40, you're just not seeing people my age, and unfortunately, younger people have the health or vitality that was kind of a given back when I was growing up. We were just expected to be healthy because we were young. That's not an automatic thing anymore. And it's a really unfortunate state of things, but part of it, I think, is due to obviously our processed food obsession, but we also have a protein obsession. And I'm not saying I'm the picture of perfect health. I know I could work on things like sleep and, stress and all that kind of stuff. But it is easy to compare when you can see the obvious big deal lifestyle differences between certain groups and certain other groups who have a very different lifestyle. Those who focus in on the high protein meals, and then those of us who don't. If you're still young, as you age, you're going to notice your friend group, there's going to be a very big difference, and health concerns and issues may become more of a regular part of their lives when it's not something you can relate to because it's not a regular part of your own. Our protein needs as women is generally around 46 grams per day. And for men, that's 56 grams per day. It's often cited that we need 0.8 grams of protein per kilograms. The big mistake I see all the time is a lot of people think you need either 0.8 grams per pound, which is false, or they might say 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, not even lean body weight. So there's a lot of different things to consider, but a lot of people think they should be eating that amount of protein for every pound they weigh. Now, say you weigh 300 pounds. Do you think you need 300 grams of protein or whatever 0.8 times 300 is? And as any of us plant-based eaters already know, hitting that RDA minimum, or is it a maximum? I'm not sure. I think Colin Campbell says that it was a maximum. But hitting that number is really easy to do when you're eating enough food for the day. The only way you would struggle to hit this number is if you had a diet that was high in oil, pure fat, or pure sugar. But when you're eating whole foods, even high carb whole foods, you will get a lot of protein. So for example, here's a chart that shows how many calories of each of these foods you would need to hit 46 grams of protein. You will see that the greens and the beans, if you get any vegetables and greens in your diet, even if it's just at dinner time, you're getting plenty of protein for the day. Even when you're looking at things like white rice and potatoes, if you only ate those foods for the day, you would get the RDA for protein. You would still likely be under the amount of calories you needed for the day just to hit the RDA on protein. Bananas, totally different topic there. Obviously, you see a lot of people eating banana days and whatnot, but you never see anybody eat bananas every day, all day, long term. And if they did eat bananas all the time, or if you've got people who are exclusive fruit eaters, you notice that they tend to eat a lot more of it in calories. So they might be eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day in bananas or fruit, and therefore they're probably getting all the protein they need to feed and nourish their bodies. So it's not a concern across the board. We've never seen people who are protein deficient who wasn't also under eating on purpose and calorie deficient. So again, even if you're eating high carb foods, you're still getting protein if you're eating whole foods. On the other side of things, the people who promote protein diets, you'll see the average American is getting 70 to 100 grams a day. But for fitness enthusiasts, that's even on the low end. You'll see a protein-obsessed culture within gyms and sports and any sort of fitness groups. There might be a protein obsession, and they're hitting at least 100 grams, if not more, depending on how big the person is. And the obsession is obvious. We've got things like protein chips that exist now. We've had protein shakes for how long? It's been a long time. But you're seeing people make protein cakes and protein meals, and it's the protein obsession. It's not like I'm out in left field when I say this is the obsession. Everybody's worried about the amount of carbs I eat, but at least it's a whole food. People have to go out of their way to get their protein. And how does that affect us as a population? Well, for your average person, that protein might mean you are either overweight or over fat. Or it means you're cutting back on something like carbohydrates to make sure you're lessening the calorie intake to make sure you don't gain weight. So you are lessening the amount of carbs your body needs for energy just to hit your protein once. I'm not even going to call it a need. So how does that affect your health long term? Well, it can affect you in a couple of ways. It can possibly lead to kidney stress. Everybody thinks that protein is one of those things that it's a throwaway calorie. The more you get, the better it is. And that's never been true of any nutrient. We are meant to eat the right amount and probably packaged in the right way. There's a difference between eating lentils that'll have protein, fat, carbs, some other vitamins or minerals within that, and fiber, all that fiber. Your body's going to break it down differently than if you were to have the exact macro count in oil, protein powder, and sugar. It's going to act differently in your body, which is why I try to promote the whole foods. But not only can it lead to things like kidney stress, it's also known to increase all-cause mortality, especially in heart disease or colon cancer. And we've never heard about anybody in the US dying of those, have we? No, instead we focus in on the few raw vegans who may have died from doing something most of us would never recommend. But I don't think you've ever heard of anybody dying from eating too much fruit. So in the end, it feels like I'm just kind of complaining about this question. I'm not complaining so much because I'm just tired of the question, but it just perpetuates this idea that you can't get protein from anything but meat, eggs, and dairy. And I've always found that the best way to promote our way of eating whole plant foods is by being the example. I try to answer this in kind and from a place of understanding that people are protein obsessed and our culture is protein obsessed. And I have to understand that there's even groups of vegans who are protein obsessed. And that's okay, because at least they aren't eating animals, right? At least they might not be contributing to certain health conditions because of the animal protein. So as a plant-based eater, how do you answer that question? Where do you get your protein? Or does it lead to any discussions like I had last week? Again, I don't get that question very often. I don't know if it's because I'm already healthy and fit and nobody's criticizing me for my lack of protein because I'm pretty strong for an old lady. Let me know in the comments below what you would say. As an aside, I just want to point out that I don't like to criticize my friends about any of this stuff. I've always tried to live my healthiest life, and if I can inspire anybody by that health and fitness, then that's amazing. But not everyone wants to live like me, and I love my friends regardless, so them choosing to live the way they want to is perfectly fine. And who knows, maybe one day my health will tank and I was the wrong one all this time, and maybe the science that I thought that was good is no longer good. Maybe something came out that debunked it all, and now I need to eat as much meat as all of my other friends. Maybe that day will come. But that's why I don't want to criticize my friends. If they want health advice, if they want advice from what I would do, sure, we'll talk about it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to insult them because of the way they live. I feel like it's just putting salt in that kind of wound sometimes. Like, there's no reason for it. we can see how I'm living and we know that I'm doing just fine. Like everybody sees I am doing just fine. So that's why they never criticize me, which is fantastic. And I don't need to criticize them. I felt it's always been easier to convert people by allowing them to slowly get there, and they don't even have to adopt everything that I do to make improvements, which is awesome. I've had friends who might eat similar to me whenever they're just around me. So the more we hang out, the more plant-based meals she might eat. And you can see the noticeable health difference. And she's happy, we're happy, like it makes it so easy. But if they don't want to eat like me, they don't have to. They obviously don't feel pressured to either. Everybody's always been so polite to make sure I've got something to eat in their home. And that is such a great way to live life in peace and harmony for the most part, because you're not ever going to change anybody's mind by being a jerk about it.